I don't know how many of you got to watch last night. Pretty exciting debate, yet again, the governor dominated that coming off of Newsom, the debate the other week, and then last night it was a success, and it was fun to watch him, and then fun to get up and come back here, back to Iowa. So I got to tell you a funny story, though, about our kids. So 2 of them were under the weather, so they couldn't come with us this time, but I have to tell you, last Saturday, we were here, and they were excited because for the very first time in their lives, and keep in mind that we have a 7, 5, and a 3-year-old, they saw snow. And they had never seen about it. You know, they see it in the cartoons. You know, it's this mystical thing that they see from afar. But the first time that they saw it, so we're in the hotel room. It is 5:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden the kids open the window, and they see, when they say they see snow, so on Saturday, it had snowed before, and the snowplow had come through and scraped basically everything off to the side, so it was right there like on the corner in a parking lot, like it was this little sliver of snow. But at 5:30 in the morning, they come jumping on Mom and Dad's bed to say, it's snowing, it's snowing. So Ron and I are sitting there doing paper, rock, scissors at 5:30 in the morning to see who's going to go with the kids outside so they can touch the snow, because that's what they wanted to do. Of course, they wanted to have like a snowball fight. They wanted to make snow angels. And again, keep in mind, it's like this small sliver. So, of course, I lost the paper, rock, scissors. And it was also very, I'm like, and also, okay, I'm from Ohio. You move to Florida, your blood thins a little bit. It's the truth. You become a little bit of a weather wimp. So I'm walking outside like the kid in Christmas Story, you know, where he can't put his arms down as he like waddling down the alleyway. That was me. So I'm out there with the kids and they get to see it. So they are excited to come back. They love the prospect of snow. They don't quite understand, though, that your clothes get wet and you have to wear like us. So they'll be back. And so I have to tell you, so of the 7, 5, and 3-year-old, our middle one, our son, is the biggest Ron DeSantis fan you will ever meet. He watches everything. He watches the debates. He watches Dad do interviews. Like, he loves his dad. And so last night he stayed up and he watched the debate. And even when we were here last week, I have to tell you, the first thing he said when he woke up after the snow, though, was, has Dad done 99 counties in Iowa? And I was like, yes, buddy. This was a question coming out of our 5-year-old. And you often wonder, when they're watching, you know, Dad do so many things, is it resonating? I mean, he's in kindergarten. So, you know, it hit me when I'm literally walking down the hallway, and he stops me. And he looks at me, and he goes, Mama. And I'm like, yes, buddy, what's up? He goes, our nation is in decline. And I said, I'm like, yes, you're right. Have fun at kindergarten. Preach. And so it's amazing. So he loves it. And I will say, he watched everything except for the Newsom debate. And here's why. Because it was up against Thursday Night Football. And he loves football. And he asked, he goes, you know, did Dad win? We're like, oh yeah, Dad won. He goes, well, what was the score? Because he loves to keep the score of all of the football things. I was like, don't worry, buddy, he won big. And so it's funny. So they're going to come with us, and it's a joy and everything to talk about the kids because they're our heart and soul. Right? They're why we fight so hard, because we wake up in the morning and we look at them, and we want to provide to our kids, and your grandkids an America better than the one that we inherited. We want them to be able to have the American dream. We want them to be happy. We want them to be able to buy a home and have a job and have children and be able to enjoy the American experience. So one of the things I was particularly proud of last night when the governor just dominated the debate, and he was standing up for everything, and he was the fighter, standing up for the border. We got to control of that, standing up for our economy. But he's the only person in this race, Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. He is the only one standing up to protect the rights of parents and defend the innocence of our children. And that was on full display last night. And the stakes are so high. Because as a mom, like, I never thought in a million years anyone would come after our children. You know, it's one thing when you want to debate us on the policy, us as moms, right? We'll sit and litigate it with you. But when you try to use our children as a vehicle to advance your ideology and your agenda, no, we're not going to do that. And so he stood strong, and he'll talk about it, his record in Florida, ensuring there's no pornography in schools, that we're not talking about sexualized curriculum in front of kindergartners, which is totally inappropriate. You know, one of the things that was a big point last night was banning these these surgeries, these mutilations of these children when they're minors, these irreversible surgeries. I mean, there's a friend of ours, Chloe Cole, who did this when she was 12. She regrets it. Now she doesn't know that she's going to be able to have children when she's older, and that's denying her the opportunity to be the happiest that I would argue you could ever be. And so these are all really important issues, and we have to stand strong. We have to fight those battles. So there's a lot I could say about the governor and introducing him, and I've thought a lot about this because I have a unique perspective on the guy, right? Like, you know, I see him in front of the cameras, I see him behind the podium, and I see him at home with a 7'5" and a 3-year-old. And, you know, I can talk about, again, you know, as a good dad, you know, when he's not out fighting the good fight, he's usually playing football or baseball with Mason in the front, he's reading to the girls, he's, you know, doing fun things with them, and again, try to ensure that we give them, you know, a future. I can talk about how he's a really good husband. I mean, he's really taught me how to be a fighter. Because I think early on, I would have looked at like the hits that we were getting, particularly I'm getting, he's getting, he gets hit every day of the week and twice on Sunday. They were always coming after him. And, you know, he taught me how to look to true north. And he said, don't ignore the noise. Make sure you always do what you know in your heart is right and stand up for what you believe in. And that gave me a lot of strength to come out here to fight for what I believe in, to stand up for our kids and to stand up for parents. And particularly, he gave me a lot of confidence. I don't know if you all know about this when I was going through my health battle. When I was going through 6 rounds of chemotherapy, 3 surgeries, and 6 months of radiation. And he was there with me every step of the way, giving me confidence to be able to stand up here and fight today. And so I really appreciate him bringing out the fighter in me. It taught me a lot. And I really appreciate that. You know, I think about introducing him, and I think about, you know, I don't know if you know this, but he went through Yale and Harvard as probably one of the only people that came out more conservative on the other end. Our liberal universities have taken a turn. They've always been liberal, but I mean, they're really going south now. But after that, he decided to join the Navy because he wanted to give back to the country that had given him so much in the form of opportunity. He had blue-collar roots. You know, nobody ever gave him anything. Nobody ever said, you know, here's a, you know, golden spoon to be able to go to some of these, quote, elite universities. But this was after 9/11. And he saw the attack on our country, and he wanted to fight back. So he commissioned as an officer in the Navy. He deployed to Iraq in 2007, was part of the Navy SEAL Team Command Staff, SEAL Team 1, as an advisor to the SEAL operation on the ground. And I think that that's admirable, because I think there, when I look at it, you know, there's a lot of things I think he could have done. He could have been successful if he wanted to, but I think it's about putting your country, putting service over yourself. And I think that's a really great quality to have in a leader. And, you know, what I also would say is, you know, I can tell you about the fighter, and again, I keep coming back to that word because he is. I mean, you look at all of the battles that they've taken on in the state of Florida and won. Because how refreshing is it for Republicans to win again? Like, how tired are we of losing? I thought we were going to be winning all the time, that we would be tired of it. Well, we were in the state of Florida, and we are. So he's taken on the teachers union, he's taken on Disney and won. He's defended our law enforcement, he's done large tax breaks. I mean, we're now the #1 in K-12 education, #1 in higher education, #1 in the economy, and on it goes. But here's what I really want you to know about Ron DeSantis. When I really look at everything, and I look through the prism of COVID, because the entire world descended upon the state of Florida, and particularly the governor during COVID. They were coming after him with every nasty thing you could possibly imagine. The left was coming after him, the media was coming after him, some Republicans in Washington were coming after him, Fauci was coming after him, the bureaucracy, the CDC, all of these people getting him to shut down, to force mRNA vaccinations on people contingent upon them keeping their job. It was to the point where I had to turn off the TV because it was so bad. And it wasn't just like one news cycle, right, where they come and they hit you and they move on to the next thing, and they come up with some other tired narrative, they hit you and they move on to the next thing. This was every day for months and months and months, getting him to back down. And every single day, I would watch this guy. He would get up, he would get a cup of coffee, he would go downstairs, and he would arm himself with the truth, with the evidence and the facts. Looking at places like Spain and Sweden and Israel and the United Kingdom, the data that was coming out of there, not someone's interpretation from a left-wing perspective on some kind of narrative that they wanted to spew and then force all of you to adhere to their ideology. He was arming himself with the truth. And then he would get up, armed with the full armor of God and the shield of faith, knowing he was going to take the flaming arrows, and he would get in front of the camera day after day, and he would fight, and he would never back down, because he understood his constitutional oath that the government does not have the right to tell you that you can't go to church. They can't do that. They can't tell you you can't be with your loved one at the final moment of their life. They were trying to do it upon this country. But I tell you all of this because when you get to Washington, you see there's so many people who run for office and they say they're going to do all these wonderful things. And they get up there and they realize it's really hard. Like the media is coming after you and they want to be liked. They want to see good headlines. They want to be a part of the cocktail class and go to the parties and all of that we could care less about. We just want to be home with our 7, 5, and our 3-year-olds. But a lot of people like that. And therefore, they bend the knee to whatever pressure comes their way. And I can tell you this, no matter what they throw at this guy, he will never let you down, he will never back down, and he will always stand up for truth. And for that, I am so proud of everything that he has done. And I will say he is my hero, and I am very proud to introduce to you who will be the next president, thanks to you, thanks to what you're going to do and how Iowa is going to change the trajectory of the country. I introduce the next president of the United States, Ron DeSantis.
Hello, Council Bluffs. Great to be back in Iowa. Had a little bit of fun in Tuscaloosa, Alabama last night. A little bit of a debate. Then the week before that, we had a debate with the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and which that actually got a lot higher ratings than last night's debate, by the way. But we're excited to be here and be on the ground. We have visited all 99 counties in Iowa to doing that. We think you got to earn the vote. We think you got to ask people for their support, answer their questions, and show them why you should be the party's nominee and the 47th president of the United States. And so my wife and I believe you got to earn it. You got to show up, and you got to make it happen. And so that's what we're doing. So you're going to see a lot of us between now and January 15th. And the good thing about the Iowa caucus is it doesn't matter what the media says. It doesn't matter what the pundits want. It doesn't matter what the Democrats want. You get to decide how it should go. And they're not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. You make your voice heard. That's how this process works. And so I'm glad that that's the way, because I have very good confidence that that Iowans are going to render a very good judgment here on January 15th. And that's going to set us on the path to the White House. So thank you for supporting us. We appreciate it. So I think the First Lady mentioned, with our kids being able to see snow and some of the things that we've been able to experience, and it's good. And she has said this publicly. I don't know. I didn't hear her just say it now, but she's made clear to the American people that we have a first grader, a kindergartner, and a preschooler. So when we're in the White House, the only thing our kids are going to be bringing home is homework, not cocaine. Don't worry about that. We're not going to be in the White House. Gonna be a very G-rated White House with us in there. Don't worry about that. It's all good. So, I think about what do we need to do to actually turn the country around. And the rest of this, a lot of the stuff that goes on with politics is just stuff that doesn't really matter. What matters is our country's going in the wrong direction. We need somebody that's going to fight for you. And look, a lot of these Republicans won't even do that. The minute the media comes after them, the left, they cave and they don't stand up and do. I'm somebody that's proven that I'll stand up and fight for you. We need somebody that's going to win, of course, win the election. And I can say I won Florida in the biggest election victory any Republicans ever had in the history of the state in our most recent election in 2022 for governor. And that's important, and we need someone that's going to beat the Democrats. And it's very obvious who the Democrats do not want to run against. They don't want to run against me because they know what will be in store for them. I mean, we showed the contrast with Newsom, failure versus freedom. We win that nationally, and they get that. But winning is more than just about winning an election. I'm the only one running. The people that are doing the damage to our country on the political left, I'm the only one running that's beat these people on issue after issue. If you look at what we've done in Florida, we beat the teachers' unions on school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat Soros on crime by removing the Soros-funded prosecutors. We beat the Democrat Party on election security and election integrity. We beat the open borders people on illegal immigration, banning sanctuary cities and even transporting illegal aliens to sanctuary jurisdictions like Martha's Vineyard. Time after time after time, we fight for you, but then we win for you. And that's important. And then we need leadership in this country. Leadership is not about entertainment. It's not about the show. It's about articulating a vision for this country's future, executing on that vision, and producing results for the people that you represent. We've done that better than just about anybody in Florida, and we will do that as the next president of the United States. And so on day one, when I go in there, you're going to see a lot of activity. Number one, we're going to declare the southern border to be a national emergency. We're going to mobilize resources immediately, stop the invasion. We're going to make sure that people that come illegally get sent back to the country that they came from. We're going to make sure that we build a border wall and have Mexico and other countries pay for it. Now, I remember that was supposed to be done. It wasn't, but here's how you do it. People that work, a lot of foreigners, but not all, that send remittances back to Mexico and other countries, you impose a fee on the remittances. You'd raise billions of dollars. We'll put that towards construction of the border wall along the southern border. And I will get that done. We're also going to designate the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We're going to authorize military force because they're invading this country and they are killing people. They are poisoning people by the tens of thousands. And, the media is always like, oh my gosh, you can't go after the drug cartels. Look, when they're coming in causing this carnage as president, you not only have a right, you have a duty to defend your people and to fight back. And that's what we'll start on January 20th, 2025. The other thing we're going to do, day one, we're going to reverse Biden's Green New Deal, and we're going to open up energy for production in this country again. We have the best reserves in the world. We're going to do it. We're going to lower your gas prices. We're going to lower energy costs. We're going to make this country energy secure, independent, and dominant, and that's going to have great effects on our economy and in driving inflation down. We're also going to take all the rules, regulations, executive orders with Bidenomics. We're going to rip them up and we're going to throw them in the trash can. We're going to end the Bidenomics once and for all. We're also on day one as Commander-in-Chief, as the only military veteran running for president, and as somebody that will be the first veteran of a foreign war to be elected president since 1988. I will go in on day one, and we are going to revitalize our nation's military. We're taking the woke out. We're taking out the social experimentation. We're taking out the politics, and we're going to return the military to mission first. And that'll be day one. Thank you. And then finally on day one, we are going to take swift action to hold this bureaucracy accountable for its abuse of power. We're going to make sure that our Constitution functions the way our founding fathers intended, and we are going to clean house in agencies that hurt this country during COVID, like CDC, NIH, FDA. You're going to see those cleared out. You're going to see DOJ, FBI, IRS, these agencies that have been weaponized. That stops on January 20th, 2025. We're going to restore this government to its rightful owner, we, the American people. And that's just on the first day. And there's a lot more we're going to do. And you'll see, you'll be excited. The way I look at it, when I got elected governor and I got sworn in, and at my first day in office, I just sat in the office in the state capitol. I looked around the office and I thought to myself, I don't know what SOB is going to succeed me in this office, but they are not going to have anything to do because I'm going to get all the meat off the bone. I'm going to take on every issue. I'm going to make it happen. And we're going to have the same view as president. I do think, we need a president that can serve 2 terms. I think that if you can only serve one, that's not going to cut it. I mean, just think about when Trump was president, when Biden took over, he reversed everything on day one. And part of that is because there was only 4 years. And obviously Trump would not be eligible to serve 8 years at this point. And I think you need 8 years to be able to make all this stuff stick. You can do it out of the gate, and we will. But I don't want the Democrats coming in 4 years and then reversing it. We need to make really lasting change into this country that outlives one president. And the great presidents are able to do that. So we'll do that, and we'll be mindful of that. The other thing that I think that we will be able to bring is a sense of purpose, a sense of kind of why are you in this? I am not in this because of anything involving me. I view myself as a vessel. Yes, I'm the leader. I'll be the president. I'll have to make the decisions. But ultimately, my job is to be a vessel for your hopes and dreams and aspirations, and to make sure that I'm conducting myself in a way that is allowing you to realize your full potential. So it's not about me, it's about you. It's not about the past, it's about our country's future. I will have our compass set to true north. Most of the things that happen in politics, particularly in Washington, it's all designed to just take you off course. They want to get you down in a rabbit hole. They want to create a narrative here. They want to smear you. They want to do this. They want to do that. A good leader rises above that. Know that that just happens and doesn't take his eye off the ball. So we'll be focused 100% on your issues and the issues that matter to the American people. And look, if we do that, we are going to have some major, major success in this country. I don't think we've been in a situation as Republicans where the country was more hungry to move on from a Democrat president since Ronald Reagan defeated Jimmy Carter in 1980. I think people are really fed up. I think they want a better course. But I also think they don't want to return to some of the controversies of the past. I really think they want us to be forward-looking. And so that's what I represent. And if we're able to go in and do this stuff, we will ensure that we are not going to be the first generation of Americans to leave to our kids and grandkids an America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. No, we'll be able to say that we restored America to what President Reagan called a shining city on a hill, that we will have strength and freedom, we will have strength and opportunity, and we will ensure that our kids and grandkids are able to realize their American dreams just like we had the opportunity to do it. And if you think back to when this country was founded, our founding fathers, when they went to frame our Constitution in Philadelphia in 1787, they had studied the history of every republic in the history of mankind because they wanted to draw lessons as to what they could do here in the United States. And the one thing that they identified as being the common thread to every republic in history was this: every single one of them had failed. And so they understood it fell to the United States of America to determine once and for all, can people really govern themselves? Can you have a society based on the idea that our rights come from God, not from the government? That we live under a rule of law, not the rule of individual men? Or is mankind forever destined to live under various forms of despotism? And they fully expected this country would decide that question for all mankind. But they didn't think that just because they had written a Declaration of Independence in 1776 and framed a Constitution in 1787, that answered that question for all. When Benjamin Franklin walked out of the convention, he was asked, did you give us a republic or a monarchy? He said, a republic if you can keep it. Because they understood you could have the best Declaration of Independence in the world, you could have the best Constitution in the world. These things do not run on autopilot. They require every generation of Americans to step up and defend freedom when it's under attack. And sometimes that means put on a uniform, risk your life, and even give that last full measure of devotion for service to this country. Now, we're not called upon to make sacrifices of that nature. What we are called upon to do is to preserve what George Washington called the sacred fire of liberty. This is a fire that burned in Independence Hall in 1776 when those 56 men pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to create a nation conceived in liberty. It's a fire that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, when our nation's first Republican president pledged this nation to a new birth of freedom. It's a fire that burned when a merry band of brothers stormed the beaches of Normandy, defeated the Nazis, and saved liberty throughout the world. It's a fire that burned at the foot of the Berlin Wall in 1987, when a strong, resolute Republican president stood in front of that wall and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." This is our responsibility to carry this torch. It is our responsibility to preserve this sacred fire of liberty. It's not a responsibility I shy away from. It's a responsibility that I welcome. I will fight the good fight. I will finish the race, and I will keep the faith on behalf of you, on behalf of the people of the United States, and on behalf of the Constitution of the United States. We are going to win. We are going to win big for this country, and I need your support to do it. Thank you all. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. Yes. Come here. Well, I'll do him first, then you. Go ahead.
I'm 68 years old, and I've studied the budget deficit for many years, and there's a big problem we got here. Every single developed market currency has eventually crashed in the history of the world. And if it's not if but when, it'll happen in the United States. And it always happens, always, because governments get too much debt. They inflate the currency, the devaluation of the purchasing power, and they have to re-up the currency. People lose a lot of money in cash because the dollar ain't worth much at that point in time, obviously. So a lot of Republican presidents haven't paid enough attention to this, and I know because they want to get reelected, but what would you do? Would you support a balanced budget? It's a really tough challenge for anybody. What would you do to recognize those risks? Everybody's pocketbook.
No, I think it's a great question. So one, I'm kind of, one of the reasons why it's not even worse is because we're the world's reserve currency. And that's kind of just by default, because for whatever problems we have, there's a lot more problems elsewhere. And particularly with China, who's our top competitor and top adversary. But China's got a lot of debt. They've got a lot of demographic problems. So I think that if we're strong here, if we're growing the economy here, if we're doing what we need to do to fend off the threat posed by China, I do think for the foreseeable future will remain the world's reserve currency. And that does give us benefits. Look, I think you ultimately just need structural reform to be able to avert. Because there is, and I think what's happened with the debt is, you had debt. 20 years ago, people would talk about the debt, right? And then it's like, oh, if you have a little bit more debt, everything's going to crash. And then it didn't. If you have more, you can't do it, you can't do it. And I think it just reached a tipping point where the political class decided, well, it doesn't matter, that they can just keep adding debt and that there would not necessarily be any bills to pay. We know that's not true. We just know ultimately somebody has to pay. I think everybody's paying now in the form of higher prices. And this is largely the tax that's been imposed because of the government's reckless response to COVID. Because if you think about from March of 2020, $2 trillion added, then $2.2 trillion in December of 2020. Biden came in and added $2 trillion in March. He did more stuff. It was an unprecedented spending and borrowing binge. And for what? It didn't do anything to help this country. If government had not proposed these restrictions, none of it would have even been necessary. So it was a huge mistake in terms of what they did. And yet they keep spending money at that inflated level. So I'm willing to veto spending, send it back to levels prior to COVID, which would save us hundreds of billions of dollars a year, which we should do. But the structural thing is we need a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. We need term limits for members of Congress. We need a line item veto for the President of the United States. And I think that's important. Behind, right there.
Let me just say one more thing. As there's more and more debt, because it keeps going up, the people that buy our debt will not want it as much because there's more and more risk.
No, I agree, 100%. No, I agree. Behind. Who did you have your hand up? Yeah.
Yeah. Governor, I applaud you for what you did in Florida as an example for the nation during COVID. And I think you say a lot of the right things. I think it's not a stretch to know that everybody here supports you and what you stand for. And if you are the nominee, you'll have overwhelming support to defeat the Democratic nominee. The question that I have is you're not only just fighting the Democratic nominee, you're fighting the Democratic nomination voting machine, right? So you, even with seemingly overwhelming numbers and support, how are you going to fight that organization on our side?
We're going to do the same thing they do, okay? I'm not going to fight with one hand tied behind my back. I think if you look at how Florida does the elections, we do it very well. No ballot harvesting, no Zuckerbucks, universal voter ID, no mass mail balloting. We have a prosecution office for people that violate the law. We count millions and millions and millions of votes on election night, report the results 99% in by midnight, and people, it's transparent. You know, in these other states, you have ballot harvesting, you have Zuckerbucks, you have all these things. That is not the way an election should be run. But if that's the law, I'm doing all of that. I'm not going to let the Democrats harvest ballots and us just complain about it. I'm going to go in, I'll have there's only probably 5 or 6 states that even matters. We're going to be in all 5 or 6 states. We'll have organizations tailored to the rules and the laws of each of those states, and I am not going to give up any ballots. What I've found out is when whatever the rules are, you should want to utilize that. So, for example, I don't like some of these states that have early voting for 30 days. I think that you shouldn't have that, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If they have it, don't tell people to wait till election day. Tell your folks to get their votes in. Who knows what happens on election day? I mean, if you even have a little bit of a drop-off. And I used to say, Florida, we don't have 30 days, but we have an early, like a week, a little bit more than a week early vote period. And again, I would be fine with just doing election day, but it's there. It's been there a long time. So I was campaigning for my governor race, and I would go and as soon as the early voting period started, I'd be like, how many of you have already voted by absentee ballot? Almost nobody. How many of you have voted early in person? Almost nobody. How many of you are planning on voting early in person? Very few. How many of you are waiting till election day? I'd have like 800 hands go up. And so what I just said was, look, when you guys drive home today, you're going to have a voting booth that's open. Go just get your votes in, all this stuff. So I started doing that. And by, a week later, I'd ask, and a lot of people had voted. They kind of took that. They was like, okay, you don't have to wait till election day necessarily. And what we found is when we converted low propensity voters who normally don't vote in midterms to come out and vote for us, a lot of them preferred to use an absentee ballot and send it in the mail. Now, I like going in person on election day. That's kind of what I've always done. But don't tell somebody not to vote if someone has sent them a ballot in one of these mass mail ballot states. Tell them to send it in. Tell them to do it. We'll go and harvest it if it's legal, but get all these votes in. So we're gonna use everything we have. I am not going to give the Democrats an inch on any of this. And what I think has happened in the past is Republicans see Democrats rev up this machine, and they don't do anything to counteract it. In Florida, we obliterated the Democrats because I was getting all the votes that were on the table, and that's what you got to do.
There's a report from Tucker Carlson on Twitter today that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was telling House members in a classified briefing that if we don't appropriate more money to Zelensky, quote, we'll send your uncles, cousins, and sons to fight Russia. Do you think we're anywhere close to the point of needing to reinstate something like the draft?
Not on my watch. I will not send U.S. troops to Ukraine. I don't think that that's something that is in our interest. And look, how do you view this? I mean, I kind of feel like you have some people who don't want us to get involved in conflict, which I don't either, but then they pursue that by saying that we should stick our head in the sands, have a weak military, and somehow conflict will never find us. I don't think that that's true. Then you have other people that constantly want to get us in conflict. And, I served in the Iraq War. That was a war without really a strong mission, trying to create a demise. There was a lot of problems with that. And so I look at that. I'm like, okay, I'm like President Reagan. You get peace by being strong, but the goal is not to try to get us involved in a bunch of wars. It's to try to deter conflict. It's so that your enemies know you're so strong that they would not want to mess with you. That's how you keep the peace or ensure peace. It's not because that all of a sudden our enemies like us. It's because they fear us. So my goal is going to be to reconstitute our military, pursue a peace through strength strategy, but not to send our troops all over the world, not to engage in nation building, not to do some of these things that these DC elites have been doing for the last several decades. And the fact is, we won the Cold War. That was a big victory for America. Since then, our foreign policy has been very rudderless. It's been largely ineffective. And so we need to focus on the American people and defending this country. And you do that through peace, through strength. But to send troops over there, I think that's a total non-starter. Yes. Yep.
What's your view on pro-choice versus pro-life in America?
I'm proud to be pro-life, and I deliver pro-life protection. Iowa, I know, has done that, and I think that there have been other states. We were just in Georgia recently. We were in for the Newsom debate. They have pro-life protections. Other states, California takes taxpayers and they fund abortions all the way to the moment of birth. That's wrong. I don't think that's acceptable, but I also recognize that with a state that's a 50-state country, you are going to have some states go in a different direction. So I'm proud of what we've been able to do in Florida to advance pro-life protections. I know Iowa's done a lot. I know South Carolina, some other states have done a lot. It's an important issue to just recognize that ultimately everybody counts, everybody has potential, and we just want everybody to be able to live up to their potential.
If you're able to get the border closed and if you get the funding of it, what are you going to do with the 40 million illegal aliens that are here?
When I get the border closed and when I get the money, that's the better question. Yeah, we're gonna do deportations for people that are here illegally, and we'll focus initially on the 8 million that have come in under Biden, because I think that not that illegal immigration before that was anything good, it's not. But if you look what's happened, what's the difference since Biden? I think the difference is you've got people from all over the world now coming across that border. It used to be a lot of people from Mexico, Central America. You still have Central America, you have some of this. But you have people from Russia, from Iran, from China, from all these places. We are at greater risk for a terrorist attack because of that open border. And we've got to stop that risk, and we've got to take care of it. So we'll do like Eisenhower did, and we'll ensure that. And here's the thing. Not only when you do that, like you send people back to Iran or whatever, that's better for safety here, but it also will make it less likely you get illegal immigration in the first place. Part of the reason people pay these coyotes to come here is because they know they come illegally. The government lets you stay in the country. What kind of a deterrent is that? It makes no sense. Who else?
Governor.
Yes.
Right here.
Okay, but where?
Right here.
Okay, go ahead. Go.
How do you plan to unify the party with the freedom?
How do I plan to unify the party? If you look what I did in Florida, I had a primary in 2018 in governor, and I was the conservative. The other guy was kind of the more establishment candidate, and we were able to, we won a very hard-fought race, and then I just got to business and I led, and people respond to leadership. In my most recent race, I won 97% of registered Republicans. I mean, that's very, very difficult to do. That's the most anyone's ever done. That's true, yeah. And that was with him attacking me for the election. So it can be done, but it's just about leadership. It's about articulating a vision that people are drawn to. We'll be able to do that. I mean, I think that you look at what the left is doing to this country. We know that we've got to step up and get it done in 2024. So I'm confident we'll be able to do that. And I can tell you what we'll do once we become president. You're going to see us put up so many points on the board that we're going to be attracting people into the Republican Party that weren't in the party previously. That's what we did in Florida. When I became governor, there were 300,000 more registered Democrats in Florida than Republicans. and we never had more registered Republicans than Democrats. Today, we have close to 700,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats.
Governor DeSantis, thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for your service fighting the liberal agenda. I have concerns, though, about taxes and about Social Security. We're with a lot of people that are either on Social Security or going to be on Social Security soon. So I'm curious to know what plan you would support to make sure that Social Security remains a viable part of retirement.
So we obviously, people that depend on Social Security benefits, it's very important. We'll make sure that people get their benefits. As the governor of Florida, I know a few people on Social Security just by doing stuff. And I know, I remember my grandmother lived till 91, and that was her sole source of income. And that's true for a lot of seniors. So it's important so people can know if you're retired now and you're going to get it, you'll get your check. We'll make sure that that happens. Now, I do think that the inflation has hurt the finances of Social Security, because what happens is you do get a cost of living adjustment, so the program spends more, but that cost of living adjustment doesn't match the increase in prices that are actually happening. So if you have low inflation, you don't get as much of a COLA, but actually your benefit does a better job in a low inflation environment than it does high. So that's not only good for working people, good for families. It'll be good for Social Security and the program to drive that inflation down and drive the interest rates down. And that's something that we're going to do. Now, for younger people and everything, how do you ensure the strength of the program over a longer term? That's something that that you work with both parties. You work on a bipartisan way to ensure that the program is strengthened for the long haul. But certainly, elderly people, seniors now, you'll have promise made and promise kept. And look, on taxes, we need to make sure that Democrats aren't able to raise your taxes. I think that'd be a disaster to see taxes go up. I think Biden and a lot of those folks would like to do that. In the second term, he may be able to do that. So we'll put a stop to that, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen in this country. Yep.
Yeah, I'm from the state of Minnesota. This is my first caucus, and thank you for your service. But what would you do for the guys in blue? The police officers,
yeah.
the EMTs, the firefighters. Minneapolis has lost over 300 police officers.
I know, a lot of them come to Florida.
They have.
Yeah.
And right now, we have a small county in northern Minnesota trying to keep their force because they have such a small force. So what the guy's doing, instead of giving them a raise, they're actually buying canoe packages and giving them to them for a bonus to stay on.
Yeah, look, so what role does the president have? So I can tell you first, in Florida, we're a law and order state. We support the people that wear the uniform. And when the BLM riots happened in 2020, you didn't see me marching against the police like some of these other windbag politicians were doing. We backed the blue. We called out the National Guard. We did not let our cities burn down in the state of Florida. And we even passed legislation prohibiting local governments from being allowed to defund their police, like some of these places were doing. And we've done 3 years in a row, we've done $1,000 bonuses for every single sworn law enforcement, firefighter, and EMT in the entire state of Florida. So, and then we did, because of Minnesota, New York, all these places, we did $5,000 signing bonuses for new recruits into the state of Florida. So we have people that have come from all over the country, and then as well as people from within Florida who are new to law enforcement, young people, they're eligible for the $5,000 bonus. So it's been a wildly successful program. I just did my budget for next year. We're going to keep it going. It's interesting. I was out in California recently, and I ran into a police chief for a municipality there in Southern California. And I was like, how are things going? And he's like, we're going really well. Just all my police officers want to move to Florida now. And so the part of it is, yes, $5,000, yes, that's part of it. But I think more than that is just they see me as governor saying, we support you. We support your profession. We got your back. And that means a lot. So as president, I think the best thing I can do, and all this attacks on police and the anti-law enforcement sentiment, how did a lot of that start? A lot of it started with Obama when he was president, lashing out at the police and creating this environment. So we'll do the opposite when I'm president, where we'll use the bully pulpit to squash these phony narratives that the media puts out. You know, there was an incident happened in Ohio a couple years ago, and there were two females. One had a knife going after the other. She called. The purported victim called. Said, "Hey, I'm getting attacked." Officer goes out, and he gets there, and you know the one assailant had a knife going after her, so he shot the person with the knife, and the officer was white, the assailant was black, so they tried to make it a racial thing. And when one of the news stations ran the report on that, they edited out the part of the 911 call where the victim said that the person was armed with a knife, and then they blacked out the actual video showing the person with the knife. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to create a narrative that this was somehow a renegade cop that was shooting somebody with no provocation simply because they were a different race. They were deliberately trying to create a false narrative. And so as president, I'm going to fight back against that. I'm going to let people know that serving in law enforcement is a noble cause, and it's a noble undertaking. Yes, ma'am.
You have to give all these billions of dollars to these countries who hate us.
Question is about sending money to countries that hate us. Of course we shouldn't do that. You know what else we should do? We should defund the United Nations. The United Nations is a total farce. It's a corrupt, morally bankrupt institution. Anti-Semitism dripping from them. They couldn't even condemn the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. They have countries like Iran on the Human Rights Council. Your tax dollars should not go to fund the United Nations. They need to stop.
We could potentially have two retiring Supreme Court justices, Alito and Thomas. Do you have any picks in mind that you would like to see? Because although we had some great picks under Trump, I think there were some letdowns, especially with some cases involving COVID that Tony Barrett wasn't even allowed to Supreme Court.
What's your name?
Josh.
Yeah, that's a great question, Josh. So he asked about Supreme Court picks, and especially because the two justices that are kind of next in line to retire, a lot of people think are Clarence Thomas, who is the best justice on the court, and then Justice Sam Alito, who's pretty doggone close to Clarence there. And the reason why this is important is because the president's got to get those selections right. Trump did 3, and I think as you said, you know, they're by and large good judges, but they have let us down on some big cases. On some of the COVID tyranny, his appointees were weak. You even had his first appointee, Justice Gorsuch, reinterpreted the 1964 Civil Rights Act, joining 4 liberal justices to impose transgenderism in the 64 Civil Rights Act. Nobody even knew what transgenderism was then. That was judicial activism, which, you know, so they've had some letdowns. And the reason why we point that out is because Thomas and Alito have never let us down. Never. You may not agree with everything they do, but I mean, if they disagree, it's for honest reasons. So we run into a situation where if they step down, if somebody were to appoint the same Kavanaugh-type justices that Trump did, that would actually move the court to the left, because those justices are to the left of Thomas and Alito. So I will be the one that's best equipped to be able to put justices on the court to fill their shoes who are going to rule in the same legacy as not just Thomas and Alito, but also the late Justice Antonin Scalia. And it's very important that you understand the type of justices that would be. And some of it is intellectual, some of it is your approach to constitutional interpretation, but a lot of it is just having a backbone. That knowing that when you're on the court, if you're ruling the way the Constitution is intended to be ruled on, the media is going to go after you. The press, other parts of the legal establishment and press and law professors aren't going to like you. That's just the reality. And you know, you either care about that or you don't. And Clarence Thomas doesn't care about that. Alito doesn't care about that. But some people do. Some people, they want to, when they go to the country club, they want to be liked by some of these more liberal people. If that's your thing, you're not going to end up doing well. And I remember at one point, I don't know, maybe I asked them in the past or something, but someone asked Clarence Thomas, how come people, change when they, and he's like, there's just something about this building that does it to people, and it's like, and he has not changed at all, like he's rock solid. So I'll be able to do that, and then I think if we have a two-term president, which we need, you may be able to replace 2 more justices. So you could potentially have 4 picks in an 8-year stretch and leave a court a 7-2 conservative court. That's a huge deal. I'm by far the best guy to do that. I understand the Constitution, and I give Trump credit for a lot of his judges, but let's just be honest. He was taking lists that other people prepared for him. He didn't necessarily create those lists. I know the issues here, and so I'll have people helping me, but I will be very much involved with that, and I think that that's very, very significant. So it gives us a really important opportunity, and I couldn't only imagine what somebody like a Haley would do. She would do liberal justices, and that would be a total disaster. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last question.
Yep.
Governor DeSantis, I respect everything you did in Florida. In my short 15 years of being eligible to vote in this country, you're the only politician that I want to be president.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So one of the things I've heard you criticize for is a lack of discussion on what you're going to do for those prisoners unjustly in the D.C. gulag for January 6th. So you laid out some of your day one plans. What are your day one plans for?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, so I think the first day I was a candidate, we came out with a plan to end the weaponization of federal power, and that involves using Article 2 clemency power for people that were mistreated or treated with a separate standard of justice. I mean, for example, if somebody in D.C. was treated one way, and I can find somebody at BLM that wasn't prosecuted at all, how do you explain that? And I think we have a Justice Department that wields power unevenly based on what faction of society that you are. So some of what we'll do will be looking forward, some of what we'll do will be looking back. It will be done on a case-by-case basis, but it will begin on day one of our administration, and you will see us use Article 2 clemency powers to right wrongs. Did I have one back there? I heard somebody. Yeah, where?
One of the hardest things that we have to do as Republicans is get our fellow Republicans who are obsessed with this kind of showman to come over to our side. What advice do you have for helping us to convince people that Mr. Clown Car is not the guy who wants our nominee, you're the guy who wants our nominee?
Well, look, I mean, I think that, the folks that are really strongly supportive of the former president, those are people that strongly supported me in Florida when I was running for governor this last time. I think they're good, patriotic folks. I think some folks will be with him through thick and thin. That's the decision they've made. But I think there's a lot of voters out there who are, kind of default in his favor because he was president, they know him, they liked his policies. So what I would tell them is a couple things. I'd say, one, if you look at the electoral track records, Trump won Florida by just a couple points. I won by 20 points. So I'm going to be a better bet to go up against the Democrats in November of 2024. And the Democrats admit that themselves. They want to run against Trump. And you have to ask yourself, why is it that they want to run against him? Because they know they're going to be able to run the same playbook and actually probably run it more effectively. So that's one thing. Second thing, I do think it's important that people come to grips with the fact that since he couldn't do 2 terms, he could only do 1, he would be a lame duck president on day 1, even if he could get elected. That has huge implications because what will happen is he'll come in and people will start running for the next time already. We've never had a situation like this. It's not how power is wielded in Washington. I can serve 2 terms. I think you need a 2-term president to be able to have all this stick, and so this really, you have a legacy beyond that. Personnel. Trump is not going to be able to recruit really high-quality personnel to be in his administration. Here's the thing, as the leader, you make the decisions, important, and I will do that. You have the vision, important. You need a cadre of people surrounding you who will be implementing that vision, especially and against the hostile bureaucracy. And I'm going to inspire people. I'm not just going to recycle people from inside Washington. I'm going to inspire people from all across the country to pick up your family for 2, 4, 6, 8 years, go to Washington, serve, and help return this government to its rightful owners, which is we the people. That's important. And if you don't have the personnel, you just can't physically do it. So I will do it. We will get that done. I think it'll be very important. The other thing is I got more, hold on. The other thing is why are you running? And I think in 16, it was America first. Now I think he's running more about his issues and some of the things that he has. Now, I don't think that's the way you do it. I'm running for your issues. I'm running for you. I'm the vessel, but I'm going to focus on your issues. It's not going to be about anything involving me. And I think that that's just an important thing. The other thing is everything I promised the voters of Florida I would do, I delivered on 100% of my promises. So I don't, anything I tell you about any of this, I have thought through how I would actually bring it about. And I intend to follow through and bring it about. Donald Trump came in, he had a great platform, build the wall of Mexico, pay for it, drain the swamp. He said he was going to hold Hillary accountable, eliminate the debt, some of these other things. And none of that came to fruition. And so I think that from a perspective of we need to actually get this stuff done, I'm a much better option in terms of doing that. And then, the other thing is we need to start uniting this country. Okay? Nobody has fought and beat the left more than me, and I'll continue to do that. But what I also do is, I'm not out trying to alienate people for no reason. I'm not out there tweeting at people insults or doing stuff like that. I conduct myself, I think, in a way a leader should, or at least I try to. My wife and I always say we have a first grader, kindergartner, preschooler. We owe it to them to be good role models as parents. And that colors what I do when I'm in office and when I'm in public. And I think that if you look at the insanity that's in this country, it's not just Republicans who realize things are off the rails. You have independents, you even have some Democrats. That's part of the reason I won Florida 60-40 in a state that used to be split right down the middle. So I think that there's a strong anti-woke majority in this country that wants to restore sanity, wants a restoration of sanity. And they want the country to return to normalcy. And they will get behind a leader that they can trust on those issues. And so I think I'll be much better equipped to be a leader for the country that is going to bring people together, I think a big majority of people, behind an agenda that really works for this country. So for all those reasons, I'm the better bet going forward. And please talk to your friends about this. Look, I think this is such a great opportunity because the media wants to tell you that none of you matter. That's basically what they're saying. They're saying they can juice some poll across the country, which is not how a caucus works anyways, and that somehow you guys shouldn't even bother. No, you matter. You make these decisions. And so I think your power in this caucus is more than you've ever had. And so bring out friends, bring out neighbors, bring out coworkers, bring out family members, get them on board, because this one really counts. You're going to make a big, big difference. Yes?
The EPA and the USDA is making it very, very hard for farmers to just be farmers anymore. Farmers and ranchers. What do you plan to do? Because, like, you have some truth. Trump's administration was crap when it came for him to picking people that were even good enough to be in charge of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Are you going to promise to put somebody in place that actually has knowledge of agriculture?
So the question is on agencies that are hurting farmers like EPA and USDA. First of all, we're going to get all the bureaucrats off your back. So don't worry about that. No water to the U.S., none of this nonsense. I actually said, so one of the things we need to do is, there's too much power in DC. We need to take these agencies and move them in different parts of the country. And a lot of people in Iowa said, yeah, bring the USDA here. So I announced Iowa gets first dibs on that. But what we're going to do is, we want it to be staffed with people that are from here who understand agriculture. I don't want DC bureaucrats imposing, their will here. So that's what we're trying to do, and I think it'll make a difference. Look, you know how to deal with your land better than a bureaucrat at the EPA. You know how to farm better than a bureaucrat at the USDA. And we just have to understand that this bureaucracy is run amok. And we're not going to take it anymore. All right, guys, thanks so much. Appreciate it.